It's time for the third annual Squirrel Tactics Thanksgiving Special, not brought to you by Cabot Cheese because they don't pay me to say it, it's just damn good cheese. And since it won the poll, we're taking a look at 9 pretty darn angry men, so yeah.
Hank, the day after Thanksgiving is, in my opinion, the biggest shopping day of the year, and I will not spend another year giving Dallas Mavericks crap because the cowboy stuff was all sold out.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our Patreon, and we have another top tier patron. So, JTJ Reviews, y'all should go check them out. This one's for you.
All right. Someone's insane. Look out, someone's insane.
I got my eye on you, nutcase.
Alright, let's do this. 9 Pretty Darn Angry Men. The title and episode premise are both taken from 12 Angry Men. Hank plays the role of juror number 8, by the way. And this is the first Thanksgiving episode for the show. I incorrectly gave Happy Thanksgiving that honor a few years back, but no, this one came first. So the episode starts the same way many episodes start, with the guys in the alley. This time they're discussing Hank's lawnmower, a Mason 1500.
'Cause once you ride a Mason, vroom, vroom. Nothing else cuts it.
And the upcoming Mason focus group that they'll be attending in Dallas on the day after Thanksgiving, or Black Friday if you will.
If anyone thinks they're gonna beat me inside that mall and keep me from getting my kids' Christmas presents, they can kiss my fat vagina, 'cause I'm bringing the motherfucking pain.
And Hank explains to Dale that the focus group is important to keep the company from ruining their lawnmowers.
You know, I'll tell you why we've got to go tomorrow. Look at your average pickup truck. With airbags and vanity mirrors, it's one focus group away from turning into a powder room.
Tilly interrupts to tell Hank that Celine Dion is off the field. I'm guessing she was singing a song for one of the football games that day. Probably the Detroit game. Kinda odd that a Canadian would sing a song on American Thanksgiving, especially since she'd performed a television special for her then upcoming Christmas album the night before. But whatever.
Hank, you asked me to tell you when Celine Dion is off the field. She's off.
Thanks, Mom.
This gets the conversation onto moms and how glad Hank is that this year was a mom year. They'd established a holiday schedule where Tilly and Cotton would alternate. This was good because that way they didn't have to deal with each other. Totally understandable. Tilly isn't really an issue, but Cotton, well, he's not exactly the best dinner guest, and it doesn't help when he decides to show up anyway.
You lawn jockeys were standing here when I left 2 months ago. Pathetic.
Hank knows it's a bad idea to have both his parents in one place. A lot of children of divorce know exactly how this feels and often have to deal with issues like this when it comes to the holidays.
Yay! 2 Christmases!
It doesn't help that his parents had a terrible marriage.
Rub-a-dub-dub, I think I'm in love. A glass of water, suck on a pebble and keep looking storked out.
So Hank sees it as necessary to try and step in, considering he knows Cotton will probably ruin the holiday for everyone.
Dad, you came last Thanksgiving. This year it's Mom's turn, remember?
Well, I don't want to cause any fuss. Your mother can eat in the yard.
Yeah, it didn't work, because of course it didn't work. This is Cotton. I've got damn near 2 hours of content that proves that making situations uncomfortable and not caring about what other people think is what he does, especially when it comes to Tilly, Hank, and Hank's wife. Speaking of Hank's wife, she also has an issue with Cotton violating the agreed upon holiday schedule, and she proves that she knows about as much about history as she does about Spanish.
Your father is gonna ruin this Thanksgiving as surely as Squanto and his band of Indians ruined the first one.
Okay, so Squanto, also known as Tisquantum, was, as far as we know, at the first Thanksgiving, or the event that we consider the first Thanksgiving, and his position as an interpreter was rather important to making the first Thanksgiving even happen, bridging the linguistic gap between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people. So they did not in any shape, form, or fashion ruin the first Thanksgiving.
I've decided to scalp you and burn your village to the ground.
Also, Peggy wants to leave super early the next morning so that they can be at the mall when it opens because, as she puts it,
And I will not spend another year giving Dallas Mavericks crap because the cowboy stuff was all sold out.
yeah, that's ridiculously accurate, especially before the Houston, Texas came along. Dallas Cowboys merch and Dallas Mavericks merch is kind of like Turbo Man and Booster.
Booster. I don't want Booster.
Yeah, nobody wants Booster. Hank isn't happy about getting up that early without Fish being involved, and he doesn't think he'll be able to get to sleep at like 7:30, so Peggy suggests drinking more beer. And he'll need it to get through dinner, seeing as Cotton has to be Cotton, and as soon as they end Grace, he literally starts at it with his first bite of stuffing, which he's apparently not a fan of.
Billy, did you make this stuffing? Does it taste like garbage?
Hank half-heartedly says something to Cotton, but the man is on a roll, and when Cotton's on a roll, well, let's just say there's 50 men that can't tell you ain't stopping him. And he brings up a time he claims Tilly tried to poison him, which of course is not true as far as we know. I mean, really, would you have blamed her if she had?
It was chicken almondine.
It was cyanide, woman.
For those unaware, cyanide smells like bitter almonds. Well, at least to the people that can actually smell it. Some people can't, and it bears mentioning that almonds do contain cyanide, though the normal sweet type has such a low amount that it's not harmful. Bitter almonds, however, do contain enough cyanide to possibly kill you. So Cotton smelled the almonds and immediately thought of cyanide, but again, if I treated my wife the way Cotton treated Tilly, I'd be suspicious of anything that smelled like poison too. He knew what he had coming. Hank again follows this with a half-hearted plea for Cotton to stop, this time wrangling Bobby into it.
Could you please show Mom some respect while Bobby's in the room?
You heard him, Bobby. Leave the room.
No, sit down, Bobby.
Cotton then brags about Dee Dee being Bobby's pretty grandma and goes way over the top when he just decides to drop this little nugget of info that nobody wanted to hear. I mean, seriously, this is Thanksgiving dinner. Not the best place to just randomly critique the sexual prowess of your ex-wife, mother of your son, grandmother of your grandson, both of whom are sitting right there. I mean, really, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Bad as Tilly was in the kitchen, she was even worse in the bedroom.
Everyone looks to Hank to say something, but yet again, he does nothing and fails to stand up for his mom. And I get that Hank has a complicated relationship with his dad, but come on, man. Hank should have pulled Cotton out of that room and had a come to Jesus talk with him after the first remark. The look of disappointment on Tilly's face tells us that much. It's damn near like Cotton is trying to poke and prod Hank into saying something. And it's sadly Bill who actually tries to defuse the situation in the most Bill way possible.
To the stuffing. Might taste like garbage, but it sure fills you up.
Later on, Hank and Peggy are in bed with Peggy trying to get ready for the shopping trip the next day, considering they're going to 6 Malls Over Texas. 6 Malls Over Texas, by the way, is a reference to the Six Flags Mall, which was opened in 1998 when the episode is set. Though it was already having hard times, and it ended up looking like this before being completely demolished in 2017. And yes, it was named after its proximity to the Six Flags Over Texas amusement park.
This is 6 Malls Over Texas, Hank. If you go unprepared, it will eat you alive.
Tilly tells them good night, being kind of short with Hank, understandable, and Hank tries to play the whole dinner off like it was an experience that his mother enjoyed, with Peggy correcting him, and Hank trying to act like since people know that Cotton is an asshole, they shouldn't be shocked when he acts like an asshole. Which, no, Hank, no.
You defended Troy Aikman more than you defended your mother.
Mom knows how it is with Dad. And there were 6 dropped passes. All Troy can do is get it there.
Quick fun fact here, the Cowboys and Lions both play a home game every Thanksgiving. It goes back to 1966 for the Cowboys and 1934 for the Lions. The year of this episode, 1998, the Cowboys lost to the Vikings 46-36 in what is considered to be Randy Moss's coming out party. And in case you were wondering, Troy Aikman threw for 455 yards. Anywho, they get up dark and early the next morning to head up to the Metroplex, and Cotton is back at it, causing the 1-car trip to become a 2-car trip.
Woo! I forgot how much old ladies stink.
Okay, but here's the thing. How were they all going to fit in that 1 car? We see everybody piled into the car and the car's full except for Dee Dee. Where is Dee Dee? There's no room for Dee Dee unless Peggy and Tilly get out. So again, what was the plan here? Dee Dee was going the whole time. She's right there with Cotton dressed and ready to go, walking out of the house. The math ain't mathin' here. Where was Dee Dee supposed to sit? That aside, the 2-hour ride seems like it was about as much fun as we all figure it would be. I mean, Cotton can be funny, but like Buck put it,
Yeah, I used to chase skirt with your granddaddy. He's a mean kind of funny.
Good God, you've got a fat neck, Hank.
So, Dad, I thought we'd split up at the mall.
Are you gonna talk the whole way?
They make it to the mall with everyone splitting off and heading in different directions. And of course, right off the bat, Peggy's shoe breaks almost immediately, leading to her getting it fixed at a cobbler shop. I love the man there commenting on Peggy's shoe, seeing as she's known for having fetishly large feet for a woman.
Ladies' loafer. That's a men's loafer.
It is a uni loafer.
But she falls asleep while waiting because she stayed up the night before so that she would be ready for shopping. And she ends up sleeping through the rest of the episode, so good job there, guys. Cotton announces where he's heading, and yeah, that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody.
I'm gonna head down to the corn dog shack and watch the girlies make lemonade.
We actually see what he's talking about later on when Dee Dee and Tilly are having a conversation about Cotton. And Dee Dee actually apologizes for him. You know, it's kind of sad when she has to do that. I also love the fact that Dee Dee and Tilly end up spending the day together, probably bonding over trauma caused by Cotton. And in the background, we see workers making lemonade at a place called Stick Doggy Dog, which is a reference to Snoop Doggy Dogg, who appeared in the show a few seasons later when he voiced Alabaster Jones in Oh Yeah.
Allow me to, introduce myself. Alabaster Jones, the main Mac Daddy of Oklahoma City.
As well as a reference to Hot Dog on a Stick, probably best known for their corn dogs and lemonade. Personally, I loved that place growing up. Their fried cheese on a stick wasn't Cabot good, but it was still pretty damn good. Ah, crap, now I want a corn dog.
I'm sorry about all those things Cotton said about you. It doesn't mean anything. He just doesn't like you.
Oh, I wouldn't mind Cotton's rantings if Hank would just stick up for me.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Hank doesn't stick up for me either. His own stepmother.
Bobby and Luann went off on an ice skating adventure. Six Flags Mall didn't have an ice rink, however, there are a few malls nearby that did, so yeah, that's close enough. And apparently their plan was for Luann to use Bobby as bait because she thought guys were more attracted to single moms. But instead, we see her having issues dealing with Buckley's death. Granted, it was better than how she handled it originally.
This is a picture of what a hungry Irish child looks like. Fight the occupation! Fight the occupation!
Buckley's not getting any deader, Luann. It's time to move on.
Yeah. Let's go!
Also adding to Luann's issues, other than the possible concussion she just picked up from hitting her head on the ice, is the fact that they're playing her and Buckley's song, Rock and Roll Part 2, by decent musician but terrible human being Gary Glitter, which I can't really play here because of copyright, but hopefully this will get through. Hey. If you didn't just see Buckley say hey, it didn't make it through. And that brings us to the A-plot of the story, the Mason focus group that ended up descending into a battle of wills between father and son, but we'll get to that. At some point, Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer arrived, so the four head into the meeting, and right off the bat, they notice that Con is in there too, which kind of seems odd to me that Con wouldn't have tried to brag about being in a focus group to the guys. Seems right up his alley, though it is very possible that Con heard Hank or one of the other guys talking about it and went ahead and signed up. That's also right up Con's alley.
Hey, here come leftover turkeys.
Oh, hell, you're here?
The moderator, Jonathan Burrows, voiced by who else? David Herman, introduces himself, and it's at that point that Bill and Dale inform Hank that they pulled a Bill and Dale by telling Cotton about the focus group, which he, shortly after, literally pushed his way into. Come on, Hank. I know he's got freakish, shinless old man strength, but you could shut that door. We start getting our introduction, starting with Con.
Con Supernusempon. I am system analyst.
So that's what you do. What kind of systems?
Oh, why bother explain? You already in over your head.
Then we're introduced to the two new characters who are participants. Firstly, Lane Prattley, pretty much the epitome of the sleazy used car salesman who owns several dealerships and apparently enjoys himself a prostitute from time to time.
Fine. So, how long you been in town?
I think I also better check the gaskets.
That's fine.
Voiced in this appearance by country music star Dwight Yoakam.
Lane Prattley. I own Prattley Ford, Prattley Honda, and got my own Prattley Cadillac.
My daddy ain't doing so good.
And Boyce Hubert, voiced by Billy Bob Thornton, who was a minister that apparently lost his faith sometime after an accident during a baptism. Not quite sure what went wrong, I mean it's just a quick dunk, but apparently a drowning may have been involved. Also, we don't know for sure where Boyce is from, so he may be the only person invited to the focus group that wasn't from Arlen, though he could have been from there and it was just never mentioned.
Boyce Hubert, minister. Although I've lost my faith. Of course, I did find a pretty great parking space on my way in. But the Lord works in such mysterious ways, who the hell knows?
And I'd like to point out, 2 years before this episode, Dwight Yoakam and Billy Bob Thornton co-starred together in the film Sling Blade. You know, the one about the guy who likes them biscuits with mustard.
Reckon you can make me some biscuits. Mustard's good on them to me.
If you've never seen Sling Blade, go watch Sling Blade. Seriously, it is a really good movie, and John Ritter was amazing as always. Anywho, then we get to the main guys, with Hank introducing himself, but Cotton interrupts him with his typical works at a gas station bit that dates back to Cotton's first appearance in Shins of the Father.
Hank, Bobby and me have decided he's going to stick vegetables up his nose. He's not going to take over the family gas station.
And don't worry, this isn't the last time that this comes up.
My name's Hank Hill, and I...
He runs a gas station. Next, I'm Cotton Hill. I killed 50 men.
Then we get our introductions from the other guys, some of them using fake names like Dale or Rusty Shackelford if you prefer, because Dale's not going to allow his real name to go into a computer. And this is actually the second time that Dale uses this alias.
My name is Rusty Shackelford.
Next was Boomhauer, who gives us an idea of what he does, or did, for a living before going on workers' comp. But the moderator can't understand a word he said and just skips putting his info in. You know, I hope he still got paid.
Hey, you need to just go ahead and call me Boomhauer, man. It'll my last name, you know. You had done a lot of different things, you know. Had a job back there in the company, you know, with the settlement, man. I'll get a works comp too, man. It's tax free, man.
And of course, we can't forget Bill, enough people have, though sometimes we try. And his introduction is very much Bill. I really do like how each of the guys' introductions are dead on when it comes to showing their character in just a quick little snippet. This episode as a whole is actually really good with keeping the three in character.
I'm Bill Dotrieve. I'm a sergeant barber in the United States Army. I'm 5'8" and 3/4 inches tall. My wife Lenore divorced me in the year of our Lord, 1991. That's about it.
With that out of the way, the new Mason mower is then unveiled. Personally, it gives me Plymouth Prowler vibes for some reason. And Hank is not a fan of the redesign. I don't really see Hank driving a purple mower, plus they added a bunch of bells and whistles like a heated seat, cruise control, and a Tommy Hilfiger sports package. But everybody else loves the mower, like Con, who loves it because he thinks it'll be so expensive that Hank won't be able to afford it. Yeah, that's very much a Con answer. And this leads to probably everyone's favorite line from this episode.
My boy's a pump jockey. Works for tips.
Dad, I do not work for tips.
Pump jockey?
Dad, I am not a pump
jockey. Works for tips.
Cotton's reason for liking the mower is more of an insult towards Hank and Tilly. It's kind of the opening salvo in the battle between Hank and Cotton. That took place that day at the 6 miles over Texas.
I like the mower. It's got a lot of nice curves, like a pretty young woman. Hank's mower's like a dumpy fishwife.
Lane Prattley likes it because it has a bunch of extra add-ons like the rear bagger, and as someone who spent a short time mowing lawns with a riding mower for a company, yeah, those baggers are overrated. Just mow it over several times, it'll mulch up. Those things fill up way too fast. But that's just me. Prattley is just a fan of whatever makes money, which comes back later.
You know, you sold me pinstripes for my Escort.
No. Let me explain to you. I financed you pinstripes for your Escort.
So far, everyone likes the mower but Hank, and when Hank starts to chime in about not liking it, Cotton steps in, accusing Hank of not liking it simply because Cotton himself does like it, and equating Hank's counter-opinion to Cotton as being the same as with Tilly, where Hank only likes her because Cotton doesn't, and the more Cotton dislikes Tilly, the more Hank does like her. I doubt that this is true, but it's Cotton being Cotton, and Hank tells Cotton to leave his mom out of it. This is put on the back burner as Rusty eventually remembers his name and gives his opinion of the mower, which may or may not be completely asinine.
Rusty?
Oh, Shackelford. Yes, I am pro-mower.
What?
I like the ashtray.
Don't be an idiot, Dale. That's the gas cap.
He's an idiot. He can use it however he wants.
Thank you, Colonel.
Okay, yeah, it's completely asinine. Dale's gonna blow himself up. We all know that's how that situation's gonna end. Nothing against an ashtray on a mower, but using the gas cap as one, that's like French frying when you're supposed to pizza. And remember,
you French fry when you pizza, you're gonna have a bad time.
Boomhauer likes the heated vibrating seat, even mentions possibly mowing naked. And, no. Mowing your lawn naked in order to enjoy a vibrating heated seat seems a little, I don't know, pervy? And even for Boomhauer, it doesn't really matter because, again, the moderator doesn't understand a word he says.
So you're in favor of the mower, Mr. Boomhauer?
Man, they don't listen, man.
And then we get to Bill. Now, as we all know, Bill has a tendency to defer his opinions to Hank, simply going along with whatever it is that Hank tells him to think. Not really cool, but you know, it's Bill. Here we see Bill break away from Hank, standing up for himself and giving his opinion, be it right or wrong, and I love the attaboy feel from Lane Prattley here. He really is a horse's ass.
Starting today, William Fontaine de la Tour d'Autrive speaks for himself.
Attaboy, Phil.
And what I have to say will rock your world. I like the cup holder.
Lane Prattley's a horse's ass.
This is the point where Hank finds out that with the Mason 2500's release, he won't be able to get parts for the 1500 anymore because it had become obsolete, or collectible as Bill puts it. And yeah, that's about par for the course, but this again gets Cotton to compare Hank's obsolete mower to Hank's obsolete mother, according to Cotton at least, and Hank accuses Cotton of trading Tilly in for a new model, a charge that Cotton denies in a rather Cotton way.
I didn't trade your mama in. A trade-in has some value. I scrapped her.
Hank then goes off on a diatribe about not throwing away something that's dependable and low maintenance for something that's bright and shiny, which he is totally correct about, and again compares the mower to his mother. The moderator, probably hoping to avoid any type of possible Oedipal situation, calls for a vote on who likes the new mower, with everyone raising their hands except Bill. Hank thinks this means that Bill's on his side, but he quickly finds out otherwise.
Wait, are we voting for Hank's mom or the mower?
The mower.
Oh!
The moderator sees this as a good time to go ahead and shut things down, having gotten an overwhelmingly positive response from the group, and pretty much everyone is on board. You get paid the full money, but you only use half the time. That's a win-win. Except for Hank, who demands they spend the full 3 hours. You know, he's kind of like that kid that reminds the teacher to give out homework. Yeah, that's Hank here, and I love how Con just straight up calls him out.
When you little redneck boy, you couldn't defend your mother. Now you compensate by defending your mower.
Keep in mind that this is 12 Angry Men, but a lawnmower / mother instead of a potentially innocent defendant. And it follows the same plot, with Hank doing his best to try and change everyone's vote, with another link between the two being Cotton. See, in 12 Angry Men, the last holdout is a man who has a bad relationship with his son, and it's through that lens that he sees the defendant's guilt. Just the same as Cotton's negative relationship with his son and ex-wife are the lens he sees the mower through, and therefore, if Hank doesn't like it, he loves it. He's doing the exact same thing that he accused Hank of earlier. It's important to remember the lenses we use to see the world through are rather important to what we ultimately see.
Put on your tap shoes, Shirley!
Hank gets to work making his case, claiming that just because something is old doesn't mean it should be replaced. Not a bad framework to start from, though it gets thrown off a bit after Hank mentions the Old Testament, and apparently something in Old Boyce gets triggered.
Thou shalt not kill. Just because a baptism turns into a little drowning, everybody's got to blame somebody.
And this in turn triggers the sleazy used car salesman gene in Lane Prattley's DNA, who sees an opportunity to possibly make a sale. Not sure how he saw it that way. Going from talking about possible murder to trying to sell a car is a pretty wide sweep across the spectrum there. But I do have to give Prattley at least a little credit here. He saw an opening and went for it. Yeah, it's sleazy, but it's Lane Prattley. Remember,
Lane Prattley's a horse's ass.
Reverend, that's an awful thing. Can I ask you a question? What kind of car do you drive?
Mitsubishi Diamante.
Hank, if you're just about through here, I'd like to take the good Reverend over to the lot. Put him behind the wheel of a brand new, pre-owned Sonata.
Hank gets an idea and reminds Prattley of all the add-ons that he'd been proclaiming the glory of earlier, except he adds in the fact that Prattley himself would be having to pay for those additions. And for a man like Lane Prattley, he ain't gonna spend money unless he has to. We're talking about a guy who charges his roller derby team for lip here.
Well, it is $500. Minus operating expenses. I gotta deduct for things like water, tissues, and bandages, and lip, if I hear any more of it.
Of course he's not going to be on board with paying out the nose for a bunch of add-ons, so he changes his vote.
Just a second here. Those god dang Mason sons of bitches, I'm gonna change my vote.
Hank gets Boomhauer to change his vote by reminding him that the heated seat would also warm up the beer that he always kept between his legs. And if that seems an odd place to keep a beer, it's really not. In fact, growing up, it was pretty normal for a driver to have a beer in their crotch.
We hope you'll stay with us for our halftime extravaganza as your Texas State Marching Band presents their tribute to gun racks and open beverage containers, which is only legal in Texas.
Not wanting to drink warm beer like Eurotrash, his description not mine, the vote changes and Hank is on a roll. He gets Dale to change his vote by appealing to Dale's fear of, well, everything. But mostly of being surveilled and, you know, the whole Big Brother thing. Ironic considering how much surveillance Dale does on his own property, but I digress.
Who are those people?
Oh, those are just people sent here to monitor your thoughts and opinions, to learn how you think. You know, get inside your head.
For those keeping score at home, that's 4 out of 8. It's not actually 9 unless you include the moderator, but whatever. We've gone from 7-1 to 4-4. The moderator tries to shut it down, seeing his good score deflating, but Hank is persistent. I can't help but notice the number of beer cans growing rather significantly rather quickly. And beer consumption may partially have been at play, along with Con being possessed by the spirit of punk rock, when this happened.
Rock the Casbah, Sherry don't like it.
And a light bulb went off in Hank's head. He figured that by using space-age lightweight polymers that the mower itself would be too light. And therefore, with the added rear weight of the bagger, it would throw the balance off whenever a 0-degree turn was made. And he proves this right by calling on the former Reverend.
I don't see or like where this is going. Reverend Hubert.
I didn't drown that boy.
Yeah, that's great. To complete a 0-degree turn, at which time the mower did exactly what Hank expected. It went off balance and upended. Luckily not hurting boys. Not sure why Hank didn't ask Lane Prattley to do that. If he'd have gotten hurt, oh well, it's Lane Prattley again.
Lane Prattley's a horse's ass.
And after seeing that the mower was unsafe, pretty much everybody changed their vote.
I hate this mower.
Bill laments that Hank is always right and that he should have listened to him. But Hank reminds him that if he always listens to Hank and Hank's always right, then that means that Bill's always right. Which I typically have a few arguments with, but yeah, it's Bill, so I'll allow it. And that leaves us with one holdout, juror number 3, also known as Cotton Lindell Hill.
Preacher, if you're still in the baptizing business, I'd like you to drown my boy Hank.
So here we go, Cotton versus Hank, juror number 3 versus juror number 8. And to add into the final confrontation, Dee Dee and Tilly accidentally wander into the observation room while looking for the bathroom. And they're present to watch the entire thing unfold, which starts out with Cotton laying into Tilly again, and yes, this time in public.
I'll tell you who get my vote. The guy who figures out a way to strap an old woman on an old mower and run them both off a cliff.
Oh, he's doing it again. And in public.
Before telling Con that Tilly let herself go too much for Cotton to keep around. Keep in mind that Tilly left Cotton, not the other way around, which I'm quite sure plays into his anger towards her. And at that point, Hank puts his foot down, going so far as to literally stoop to Cotton's level and pretty much get in his father's face when he tells him that he's gonna listen to him and that there's nothing wrong with his mother or his mower, making it clear what the real issue at play was.
It's about a bitter old man who blames everybody but himself for all his own problems. And if you ever talk about my mom or my mower like that again, You're not welcome in my house.
Tilly loves hearing this. It's been a long time coming, and Hank should have handled this earlier in the episode. However, Cotton does not like hearing this. This isn't the first time Hank stood up to him, but he has no real comeback and can't honestly deny that Hank is right. In fact, we see Cotton's face soften as the understanding of what Hank had just said set in. But it was quickly replaced, as many of Cotton's emotions were, with anger. So we get this.
You got a fat neck, boy.
Cotton takes his money and leaves. That'll be a fun 2-hour drive back to Arlen. And we get my personal favorite line from this episode. Man, I wish they brought Boyce back in later episodes. If they could do it with Lane Prattley, they could do it with Boyce Hubert.
Well, I'm not sure if there is a God or heaven. But one thing I can tell you is your daddy's going to hell.
We end the episode with Hank meeting up with Tilly, mother proud of her son for standing up for her, and declaring that he'd already given her the best Christmas present that she could have wanted. We even get to see Hank put his arm around her shoulders, which is really a rarity in public for Hank. Oh yeah, Peggy's still asleep, which also brings up an issue for me. So they got to the mall at roughly 7 a.m., she broke her shoe and started her nap not long after. And if she's still sleeping when they're closing at either 9 or 10 p.m., then she's been asleep for a good 14 or 15 hours. That seems a little long there. And Hank waits out front for her, which brings up another question. How did the numbers work for the ride back? Cotton and Dee Dee are obviously in Peggy's car, and we see Hank, Bobby, and Tilly, so I guess that Cotton, Dee Dee, and Luann rode back in Peggy's car. Not quite sure how Peggy ended up getting home, though.
Well, I guess Peggy got a ride home with Cotton. Huh. I'll be dipped.
And that's the end of the episode. It's a good overall episode, arguably a great episode. It does a great job of keeping the characters in character. The writing is on point. There's plenty of memorable lines and scenes, great references, introduces one fun long-term character and another interesting but sadly short-term character, both voiced by guest stars. We get to see Hank stand up to Cotton. Tilly gets to see Hank stand up to Cotton. We get a possibly concussion-induced Buckley sighting, find out that Bobby is a rather talented figure skater, and Peggy sleeps through most of it and ends up locked inside a closed mall. I mean, really, what else could you ask for? I like that this is a Thanksgiving episode because it just keeps on giving, and the use of the plot line for 12 Angry Men as the backdrop for the battle of wills between Hank and Cotton was a pretty smart idea. The two men locking horns over respect given to a mower and a mother. Also, ladies, take this as a warning about those BBLs. If you're skinny and you get that rear bagging attachment, be careful because if you spin too fast, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time.
My cup holder!
Thanks for watching, folks. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time.
Dear Lord, we are grateful that Cotton has forgotten our carefully worked out holiday parent rotation schedule so that we may all be together on this day. Amen.
Amen.